as somebody that's tried to leave numerous times and never been able to succeed, I appreciate that sentiment very much. One of the themes that kind of keeps resonating with me tonight is this kind of how Santa Cruz somehow always pushes people to kind of think at the boundaries, and it's the combination of different ideas and different ways of thinking about the world that create really interesting questions and opportunities in businesses and kind of create ways of creating the future in a way. And so our final speaker is, I think, kind of a classic example of that. It's Steve Whittaker is a professor in psychology, but he studies the psychology and technology together. He's also spent a lot of time in industry. He's been at Hewlett Packard, Bell Labs, AT&T, IBM, but now he's firmly ensconced at the university. He's British by birth, but American by experience, if I can put it that way. I think if that's accurate. He prodigious scholar, quite a 120 articles written, 20 patents in the U.S. and the U.K. Google Scholar Index of 53, but yet he's committed to kind of creating the future and creating really interesting dynamic programs around human-computer interaction in the psychology department that I really think 5 years from now will be path-breaking and things we'll talk about. So again, I think it's this theme of kind of bringing these things together and these diverse experiences that create these amazing things. So without further ado, Steve Whittaker.
Thank you very much for that very nice introduction. I just want to say thanks for the people who've organized this event. And one of the things I'm particularly enjoying, first of all, as an audience member, is it's really nice to see people talk in particular about their kind of academic work in a different way. So it's kind of highly personalized, so that's kind of threaded in, and that to me is very enjoyable, and I hope you also enjoy me talking in the same way. However, I find myself unable to begin with a personal narrative because, as Carl has pointed out, I'm British. So the unfortunate thing is we're going to have to wait about 20 years until I kind of know you a little bit better, when I can be a little bit more informal and, maybe let myself go a little so I could just tell you something about myself. So I'm sorry, the whole personal narrative, I was just projected into this situation now, and I cannot tell you anything about my personal past. I'm really sorry about that. It's just, it's a cultural issue, right? As somebody coming into this country, I repeatedly have problems with it. What I want to do then instead is I want to talk about a few issues surrounding my research, and I just wanted to maybe start off with a little bit of group participation, because we haven't had any of that yet. So I'm going to ask you for some statistics. Pew are a survey company, and one of the things they do is they ask questions about how people use technology. And one recent survey they did asked how often teens, how many hours per day teens were using social media and media more generally. So I would like you as an audience to shout out whether it's some number of hours. So on a count of 1, 2, 3, shout out a number, whether you think it's 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours. Okay, 1, 2, 3. 4. Okay, I got 4 as the mean, right? But I think that could have been the people right at the front who are really, really noisy. However, did anybody stick their hand up? Anybody say 8? Okay, it's 7 hours and 23 minutes. Okay, so, we read the papers, we listen to NPR, all this kind of stuff, and people say, oh my God, those teenagers. What are they doing with technology? Okay, so let's do some more statistics which are more to do with adults. Okay, so here's another one. What % of American males usually take their phone anytime they go to the bathroom? 100. I hear 100, right? Any advance on 100? Yeah. All right. So low end. Anybody want to? Okay. Let's do it. 1, 2, 3. Close. Okay. So the mean that the answer to that one is 70. Okay. A little low, I guess, from the. So I feel like an auctioneer here. Okay. So let's do one more, and then I'll talk about the research. So how many guys will not go to the bathroom unless they've got their phone? 1, 2, 3. The answer's 30. Okay. So the point about those examples is that a lot of the rhetoric is surrounding teens and the fact that, in a sense, they're kind of wedded or obsessed by or addicted to. These are all the kind of terms that are used about teens and media. But we all know we have the same problem ourselves. We can all think of examples of, I watch people in social situations like, cafes and bars. There are people out on dates, and they've both got, smartphones out in front of them. So we can be accusing teens, but I think we're all equally guilty of, if that's the right terminology, we all are experiencing technology in a very, very important, significant way in our lives. So that's one of my interests. One of my basic interests is, from a psychological perspective, how is technology changing the way that we think and feel? And secondly, because I have this background within tech companies, which of course I can't discuss because I'm British, and that would be very personal, but what I bring from that is an interest in, I guess some people have described it as fairly ironic, I'm interested in trying to harness that technology to maybe help us kind of improve the ways that we're dealing with technology if we construe our use of technology to be problematic. So I'll give you some examples of that approach. So there are two parts to it. As I say, one is to first understand what technology is doing to us, or what we're doing with technology, or how it's changing us. And the second thing is, can we actually harness technology to, improve, help the ways that we think and feel? So I want to just talk about two pieces of research that I'm doing at the moment. So you might wonder why I'm wearing all this stuff, right? These are about 5 years old, these glasses. So these preceded Google Glass, but basically they're the same kind of technology. So if I was wearing these, I could be recording every single thing that I looked at. I've also experimented with always-on cameras, which basically take a picture every time you move. So the idea behind this research is to explore the notion that our digital footprint is, by the day increasing. So we all have more and more information about our activities being recorded online. So we could take a brief digression into the the NSA scandal. That's not my concern here. I'm much more interested in the question of, if we have that type of data, how can we harness it, how can we own it, and how can we use it to help ourselves? So let me give you a couple of examples of what we might do with all that data. So we started these experiments with this notion of kind of, quotes, recording everything. Of course, it's not recording everything, because there's always things that we kind of miss out on in our experiences. So we had these always-on cameras, we had glasses that could kind of record everything you looked at. And one of the questions that we're interested in is, how does that compare with our everyday memory? So you think about your memory in wetware, which is the stuff that goes on between your ears, and we're all totally aware, embarrassingly aware, of the fact that we forget stuff. So what a lot of technologists have been doing is putting forward a vision of the future where we have, quotes, total recall, because we just basically outsource our memory to these external devices. So we've done a bunch of experiments looking at how much people can remember with this always-on technology, and what's kind of interesting is they don't have total recall. So, we do these experiments where we have people wear this technology, and basically, if they're recording, almost every, an image of almost every different activity they're doing during the day. They get slight improvements in recall, but these are not kind of mind-blowing. And there are various reasons why that's the case. One problem is that our lives are kind of not like a photo album. So when people think about memory, they sort of think, oh, memory is about highlights in life, it's about, that fantastic vacation, it's about that wedding, it's about that birth of that kid. These are kind of high points in life, but actually, unfortunately, real life is much more dull than that. So, when you wear these always on cameras, what you find is you're recording kind of, in my case, interminable sequences of me in front of a computer. So if I try and use that to help myself remember my life better, I'm totally confused because all I see is myself either in front of a computer a lot of the time or talking to people, and it's usually the same people. So that's not helping me remember. So that was, we explored that kind of vision of the future, which has been embodied in Google Glass as a product now. But I found that whole experience rather disappointing. So one of the things that we've been trying to do recently is to try and understand how you might use very rich records of our past to help people understand themselves better. So we've built an app now which works on Android and it works on iPhone. And one way to think about it is it's like a little pocket therapist. So the idea is that you take this app and you log personal events and along with your emotional reaction to them. And the idea behind the app is that our emotions and our experiences in life are things that we don't actually understand particularly well, right? So we don't have good intuitions about, what really upsets us. We don't understand, things that maybe bore us a little. So let me give you some examples of the way the app works. And as I say, we've had we have people who've been using the app now for periods of years. So we've done field trials where we've kind of paid people to use it short term. And we've had a lot of people who've kind of continued to use it long term. And people have said things to me, which is very unusual. My usual experience with technology is you kind of build, you guys will know, you build technology often and nobody's interested. In my experience with this technology, we've had people come and they've said things like, this technology has changed my life. Right? Now, that's not everybody who's using it, but some people who've been using it. So what people say about the technology is it kind of holds up a mirror about their emotions and experiences to them. And they can use the technology maybe in ways that they can't use, they can't have conversations with other people. So you might have a problem that's kind of persistently bugging you in life. My own feeling is that you can kind of talk to somebody, a close confidant, about that kind of once, right? Because you've kind of blown your wad after that, right? So you say, I've got this problem, can I talk to you about it, right? And they'll give you their time. But if that problem's kind of repeated, then, you can't, I don't think you can burden people by going back to them. However, this pocket therapist, you can spend as many hours as you want analyzing that problem on here. And of course, the other thing is that you can be very honest with this, maybe in a way that you can't be honest with another person because maybe you've got a social relationship with them, you're trying to kind of maintain your status with them or whatever. But so there are reasons why people might, some people at least might prefer to be dealing with their problems, their everyday experiences using this type of application. There are also other interesting experiences that people have reported to me along the lines that, especially about what's kind of curious about this technology is a lot of people's intuition is, oh, well, especially if I write about negative experiences I have, it's kind of bad because I'll go back and I'll look at that and I'll be reminded about past negative events. Rather counterintuitively, people seem to benefit more from kind of seeing past negatives, and part of the reason that people say about this is that usually when you go back to some event in your past that was negative, usually you've kind of moved away from it. This isn't true in all cases, but often you're not in that situation anymore, so you feel more positive about it. So the lesson that people draw from the technology is a kind of redemption narrative that they are resilient people, that they can kind of move on from difficulties that they have. So those are just some examples of that particular technology. As I say, it's been very striking to us that deploying it can actually increase people's well-being. We have those results from repeated deployments of the technology. And I should also say that the technology is free. You can download it from Google Play. I'm quite happy to share that. Or there's an iPhone version too, and I'm quite happy to show people after the event. So that's one instance of a technology that we've deployed that's trying to help people, and it's trying to help people by harnessing all this digital information we now have about ourselves. Just want to finish by talking about a different type of example, and this is coming back to those pesky teens. So, but it's a problem that we all have. So one of the big problems with computers is they do everything, right? Used to good old days, right? If you wanted to watch a movie, maybe you come to a place like this, or you turn the TV on. If you wanted to do a bit of research, you go to the library. If you wanted to communicate with people, maybe you get on the phone. Now, all those things are sat on your computer. And the problem is, in certain contexts, it's very, very distracting, and it's very, very easy to move between contexts without realizing it. So I'm sure all of us have had an experience where we sit down for the day, we think we're going to be very productive doing some work, and then 12 minutes later, we're in some funky website, no idea, why am I looking? How I didn't know that those stars did those things and were having those kind of problems. I didn't know celebrities were like that. Okay, so we've all had, or could that really be some health problem that I have, and could it be that, eating bacon fat really does things to you, if rats are nearby? Anyway, so we've all had that experience of kind of getting off task. So one of the things that we're very interested in, kind of along the same lines of trying to have computers help us to be more mindful, is we've built a very simple app which is called Me Time, which basically shows you how you're spending your time across different apps. So in particular, it can just show you, for example, how much time in the last 30 minutes you spent in Facebook, how much time you spent browsing the web, how much time you've spent in productivity applications. So the idea is that this app just kind of floats above, it floats on your computer screen. You can't get rid of it. We've tried different designs where you could get rid of it, and obviously there are personal differences about what people want from this type of app, but this is kind of our best guess at the moment. But the basic idea is, it just tells you, it kind of reminds you how you're spending your time. And we have, again, I can't present the results yet because I haven't got them back yet, but we've deployed this now with about 80 people, just trying to understand whether just providing them with that information about their time use can allow them to be more focused. Now, I should say I've done some exit interviews with people who've used the technology, and it's kind of very interesting to me what people's thoughts are about it. So I'll just finish by sharing some things. So what some people have said to me about this technology is, I would like that thing to switch my Facebook off, right? And to me, that's kind of weird, right? Because, they've got hands, right? So you think, okay, well, that thing's just showing you've been on Facebook for 42% of the time. Can't you just reach over and, stop Facebook yourself? But I think what this brings up, is another a real interest of mine, which is the whole question about design, which is how you build something that will kind of be optimal for multiple sets of people. As I say, we built this app at the moment that's just kind of like maybe a nagging parent that sort of reminds you about how you've been spending your time. We could have something that's much more draconian that could kind of switch things off and, it'll give you electric shocks or whatever. But I just want to draw your attention to this kind of design problem and the fact that people are kind of very confused about this. In particular, it kind of reminds me of some psychology work on what's called locus of control, which is like who's the boss, whether it's you're in charge of things or, external factors, external people are in charge of things. And it seems like that particular informant sort of felt like they didn't really control their world. Anyway, so those are I just want to finish, those are 2 examples. I actually do a lot more stuff. I'm working a lot on community systems, which would maybe ally with a bunch of other speakers here. But I just want to thank you for the opportunity to speak. And if you do want to hear my personal story, just come back in about 10 or 15 years. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Nice way to end off the night.